Welcome to the channel. In this video, we get to check out the Rali 220 Evolution. I think this plane looks cool. It's kind of got a unique feature. It's got its own style to it. It's got some innovations packed into it. But the short answer of this video is going to be no. But let me show you why. So let's dive in. So first things first, when it comes to this plane, that drove me insane. So I love that they came up with the idea to be able to store stuff. Oh, that all just came undone. I love that they came up with the idea of being able to store stuff into here, but if this was my personal plane, there would be nothing in here because that rattle would drive me insane. The other thing with this is it's just not comfortable. This horn is way too small to hold on to, which is kind of surprising for me because my hands aren't that big. And this back part is just, this is obnoxious right here. So if you're using this for a long time, it's not comfortable to hold on to. What I think they were trying to recreate was a vintage Olmia. If you look, it's very, very close to the same thing, but this is way more comfortable because look how big that knob is and how it's shaped. And then that back part right there. Now, with this plane, this right here on both sides does get kind of annoying. If this was my personal plane, I would file that over and make it more comfortable to hold on to. But you can't do that with this plane because it's plastic. The other issue with these planes is something that I probably should have mentioned from the beginning. This is a razor blade plane, which I am not a fan of for a couple reasons. We have become a society of just throw things away. So once you're done with this, you throw it away, and then you have to buy more blades to continue using this plane. I'm not a fan of the throwaway culture. The other thing I'm not a fan of is the subscription culture, where now, I mean, think about it with video games. Everything's become a subscription. If you want to play the game, you have to pay X amount per month to play the game and get the features and all that kind of stuff. This is the first phase of that. This is a subscription plane because once you buy this plane, if you want to keep using it, you got to subscribe to their blades and keep buying their blades. And I am not a fan of that idea at all. The next thing I want to talk about on this plane is how you advance and retract the iron. So to advance the iron, you push this down. To retract the iron, you lift this up. That is a lot more difficult than a simple turn of the knob. With these planes, it's a lot easier to control. Just a slight turn, versus having to rely on your pressure here and in the hopes that this doesn't just slip on you, which this did a lot. It was very tough for me to advance and retract the iron to get it exactly where I wanted it to be without having that adjustment be too far. So I like that this is an innovative thing, but there is just simply an easier way to do this, and it's been done for centuries. To take the blade out of this plane, there is this black bar. Once everything is locked down in here and you want to go to change the blade or whatever, this bar can get pretty difficult to lift up. I don't have a blade in there right now, but I did find myself a few times having to use a lot of force to pull this up and then bump your knuckles or whatever the issue was, but that was rather obnoxious versus just a lever cap. The other thing too with lever caps, if your lever cap is too tight, you can loosen the screw. And then boom, it's easier to take the lever cap out. But that was one of the issues that I fell into with this plane. The next part is how the blade is actually held in. And I have been calling these the lobster claws because they clamp down and hold on to the blade. And then once you drop that into the plane, drop that bar down, lock it in place, and then everything's tight and in place. Not square. I'll talk about that. But to put the blade into the plane, you have to take it, and you see those gray nibs right there. That's what the blade reference is. Now remember I was telling you this blade isn't flat, so it rocks back and forth on there, and I have to try to hold it at a certain angle, make sure it's resting the right way, close that down, and then hopefully everything is still referenced, everything is still locked. From there, this drops down into the plane, and that's when you lock it all down. To undo this, again, you lift up that black bar, you lift this back up, and there you go. Now the lobster claws are back out. Or that's going to happen. Which, I'm really glad that happened because that's happened multiple times while using this plane. When this black bar is gone, these freely open and close. They're very, very loose in there, so it's really easy for things to fall apart. Sometimes when I was dropping this down in here, the blade would actually fall out of the mouth when I dropped it to clamp it all down. So the innovation in this setup I think is cool. I like that they're thinking outside of the box, but this is not in my opinion, a practical way to have all of this function and work together well to make it a good user, versus the setup that's been done for a long, long time. I mean, even with Norris planes, the Norris setup is a lot easier than this. Bevel up planes are a lot easier than the setup than this. This is just all very finicky. Now, performance-wise, if you were still watching and you're curious to see how it performed, the first issue I ran into is this body was not flat. I don't know if you guys saw the short that I had posted, but I was able to take this by just the depth adjust knob and spin it on a granite plate very easily. I basically just went like this with my finger and it was spinning. So it was very much out of flat. There was a hump right here, and this plane has ridges on the bottom. I had to flatten this so much that those ridges are almost completely gone, and that made me nervous. I did not want to keep flattening because you can see right there. In this setup, this is fully retracted, and that's how far it's sticking out. So I was worried that if I kept flattening, I would not be able to fully retract the iron, so I stopped. It's flat-ish. I go for flat-ish, but I would say I need to flatten this more. And I can't. In use, this plane did semi-okay. I was struggling to have this plane cut square. It would be heavy on one side, light on the other side. It was almost perfect in the middle, like it was a camber. But it was just, it didn't feel consistent. It didn't feel like every time I would use the plane, it would produce the same kind of shavings. Sometimes it would be heavy on one side, sometimes it would be heavy on the other. And all of that is telling me it's because there's too much play in here and how all of this works together. Everything is just too loose in there. So performance-wise, I still wouldn't recommend this plane to somebody. I realized I didn't give you guys any stats on this plane. It comes in at 2 pounds, 8 ounces. The blade is 1 7/8, and it's about the size of a number 4, and it costs $178. So I said in the beginning of the video that my answer was no to this plane, and I am sticking to that. It's just, I feel bad because they are trying to think out of the box. They are trying to come up with new innovations and things to try to make woodworking easier, but that's not the case with this plane. I feel like it's more difficult than just a Bailey or a Norris style plane, or even the bevel up planes are way simpler than this is. Everything with those planes lock in really strong, and everything with this plane, it just feels cheap, but it's not cheap. It's $178, and it's subscription culture where you have to keep buying irons once they run out. So in the long run, that's just going to cost you more money. And it just didn't perform like I was hoping it would. When I saw this plane and my friend let me borrow it, thank you, Lou, I was excited to try it out because I was like, oh, this is cool. It's futuristic. It's got innovations, but it's too finicky. I don't like the innovations. We have easier methods that have been done for decades, and I want to see improvements upon those, not a complete diversion, I guess, to this. So I am sorry to say, no, I don't recommend this plane. But the thing that I say for everybody is don't base your opinion just on my opinion. Go watch other videos and form your own opinion. For example, James Wright and Rex Kruger both have videos on this brand of plane as well. So go watch those. Form your own opinion. If you have this plane, love it or hate it, or a brand of plane, love it or hate it, please let people know down below too so they can also read the comments. But alright, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you got any questions, any comments, anything like that, feel free to let us know, and have a good day.